On today's show, the Pacers send the Bucks home in an absolutely wild finish. The Pistons force a Game 6 with Cade Cunningham taking over late. Jamal Murray drops a 40-piece as the Nuggets take the pivotal Game 5, and the Celtics put an end to the pesky Orlando Magic. It's all coming up right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And joining me is my partner in crime, David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. David, what kind of playoff action did you see last night?
A little bit of everything, right? A couple wild finishes, a blowout, a couple teams got sent home. That's playoff basketball, baby.
Love it. We had 3 elimination games on the docket. 2 teams got sent home. We had some crazy finishes, some blowouts. We got a little bit of everything. We're going to talk about it all on today's episode. Now, we want to thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. And where we are going to go first is the absolutely wild finish between the Pacers and Bucks in overtime. Pacers sending the Bucks home, ending their season. Let's go out to Locked On Pacers for more on this one.
Well, that was just unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. The game's been over for a while, and I still know what to say. Pacers beat the Bucks 119-118 in overtime to secure their first-round series with a 4-1 win. Down 4 in the final minute. Pacers get a lucky break on a dumb Bucks possession and score twice and tie it up. Down 7 with 40 seconds to go. Force 2 turnovers, score every trip. Tyrese Haliburton dunking, hitting free throws, beating Giannis to the basket and scoring a layup with 1.3 seconds to go. Bucks out of timeouts. A magnificent moment for him. Another on his list of big shots against Milwaukee. I mean, I've never seen a game with so many moments where I felt like the Pacers would lose down 20 in the second quarter, down late twice, but they found a way as they have all season. They're on to the second round. Much more coming on Locked On Pacers.
David, this was just an absolutely bananas game. And I have, Tony's like, I don't even know what to think about this one. I have one thing to think about this game. Gary Trent Jr. giveth and Gary Trent Jr. taketh away. Started the game 0 of 7 from downtown, and then reeled off the next 8 triples, knocked down all of them, or went 7 of 8 at one point, but finished the game 8 of 10 shooting from downtown after that 0 of 7 start, including 4 of them in that overtime period. But Gary Trent Jr. was also the one responsible for those 2 key turnovers with under 40 seconds left that gave the Pacers life and ultimately let them squeak out a win in this one. Just a crazy ending between these 2 teams.
So unfortunate, and yet he's so completely responsible. You can give him credit because he was the one who built up the lead single-handedly. He was incredible late in the game, and then just a costly pass along the baseline there, and then he just winds up throwing the ball away. And then another time when I can't remember who it was trying to make the pass to him, and it just sails. I think it was AJ Green. He just made a pass to him, easily catchable, sails right through his fingers, and there was nobody around him. They were just killing the clock at that point, and he just watches the ball goes away. I've never seen anything like it, and it was just a really costly error at just the wrong time. And maybe he had plans, he had off-season plans, and he didn't want those to get in the way. He didn't want to continue for a Game 5. It's just such a bizarre ending, and yet it was great. And it's going to be held against him. This was going to forever be the Gary Trent Jr. game because it's just he left such an indelible mark on this one late in the game. But really unfortunate. And look, give the Pacers credit. I mean, they were, as Tony said, a team that's always found a way to come back. Their offense stirred at just the right time. And the Bucks also, without Damian Lillard, they had a monster game from Giannis. Of course, you expect that, but they got some nice stops. They got some great performances all around, and they were able to make this a very competitive game when they probably shouldn't have. Juggled their lineup a little bit. So credit to Doc Rivers for trying something in Game 5 to try and eke out a win. It just didn't work out that way on a very fluke ending there.
You know, I was honestly really I was torn. I was impressed, but also a little scared for the Pacers because of Tyrese Haliburton in this game. There was that setup. It was near the end of regulation before the overtime period began, where Hallie was heaving threes like his life depended on it, just trying to get one to go down. I think it was one possession where he put up 2, maybe 3 3-pointers all in, on one possession. Pacers kept getting the offensive rebounds, and he shot only 2 of 10 from downtown in this game, but he found a way to get it done inside the arc. 8 of 12 shooting inside the 3-point line, including the game tying bucket at the end of regulation, the game winning bucket at the end of OT. Like, this was Tyrese Haliburton putting the Pacers on his back and delivering in those big moments, despite not having a great outside shooting performance, which is usually one of his best weapons as a player.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He found the right seam all night long, as far in terms of being able to just generate a drive to the rim, and like he was getting the right switches. And when he did use his crossover so effectively, there were a couple of possessions where he just left Bobby Portis in his dust, and he was just able to get to the rim. And then, of course, there was that one play towards the end of the game where he winds up breaking away for a dunk. It was just a fantastic move there to help give Indiana a little bit of a cushion. But it was just an unusual game when he can't shoot as well as he does, but he still made his mark because that's what stars do. And it was a really solid overall game from him.
Speaking of what stars do, Giannis Antetokounmpo did about everything you could ask a star to do in a game of this caliber. 30 points, 20 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Did have 7 turnovers, but he's out there trying to handle the basketball a lot more than he normally would with no Damian Lillard. 11 of 17 free throw shooting, 9 of 17 overall shooting. Let's hear what Locked On Bucks had to say about this one.
3 straight years. 3 straight years, 3 first-round exits for the Milwaukee Bucks. This year's loss, though, a heartbreaker, a real heartbreaker. Bucks were up 7 with 40 seconds left in overtime. 2 costly turnovers gave the ball back to the Pacers, and they were able to capitalize on and get a victory. And the saddest part about that, the craziest part, is that Gary Trent Jr. scored 12 of the 15 Bucks points in overtime to help them get that lead, to be in the game, and then just 2 costly turnovers down the stretch for him. Just truly a heartbreaker. Another dominant performance from Giannis out here with a big triple-double, his 4th career playoff triple-double, but not enough. Not enough. Doc changed the starting lineup, Game 5. Not enough. Probably should have went there sooner. This sets up what is going to be undoubtedly a loud offseason for the Milwaukee Bucks. So make sure you keep it tuned in to Locked On Bucks. We'll be breaking down all offseason.
I fully agree with Camille here, David. This feels like the kind of game by Giannis, right? Literally like pouring it all out on the court. There was a point where I did kind of think that Giannis was maybe taking his foot off the gas a little bit, looked a little exhausted, was settling for some jumpers late in the game that were maybe uncharacteristic, not kind of the baskets that you would normally want to see him taking, especially in like high pressure moments. You want to see him get downhill, get to the rim, do what he's supposed to do, right? But just 44 minutes played, doing literally everything on the floor for the Bucks, offensively, defensively. This offseason is going to be a lot for Milwaukee with all the rumors, all the speculation about whether Giannis ultimately wants to demand out of Milwaukee.
Yeah. Watching it kind of felt like watching LeBron James in his last playoff series with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2010 before he decided to join the Miami Heat. And I know he was accused of kind of, at the time, I remember a lot of the accusations where he didn't try as hard. He could have gone a little bit, harder in that effort, losing effort. And at the same time, he was tired of carrying that team. And you kind of look at what Giannis has had to do this year, and he just hasn't had the help. They had that midseason trade where they get Kyle Kuzma, and he was solid in some moments, but not really all that great, and certainly not in the playoffs. And then the Dame Lillard acquisition, for as good as Lillard's been, he's been on and off. He's been hampered by injury, and unfortunately, we're seeing what could be the tail end of a fantastic Hall of Fame career in Lillard, and it's just not the way you want to go. And so you have to look at where Giannis is right now. And I know there's going to be plenty of time for speculation, and Bucks fans don't want to hear this, but I'm sure they're overly concerned, and they should be, because Lillard's going to be missing most of the year, and you have the potential for what could be a hard reset here, where you have to be able to look in the mirror and say, look, we're not going to compete next year. We don't want to waste Giannis in his prime, and Giannis doesn't want to waste his prime. and when he can compete for a championship and still play at an MVP level. And so he has to make the decision. And I don't know. I feel like it's premature, and yet at the same time, it feels like a very active conversation that's going to take place and has to take place, because he's at that point in his career where he's going to be frustrated because he wants to keep winning, and he's not going to do it in Milwaukee because they don't have a chance of competing next year.
Coming up, the Pistons force a Game 6 with Cade Cunningham taking over late and maybe a little bit of help from Tom Thibodeau. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Car Gurus. Look, shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting, but between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming. That's why I love using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second-guessing yourself. Need a deal that you can trust? Car Gurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings, and their best feature, price drop alerts, so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, or outdoor lighting, Wayfair has quality products for every budget. Their free and fast shipping makes things so easy. There's no hauling heavy items from the store to your doorstep. They have top brands like GE and Moen at great prices. Shopping is absolutely seamless, and you can find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. Wayfair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's wayfair.com, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks for making Game Night your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, go check out the show for your favorite team, or come check me out over at Locked On Rockets. Go see David over at Locked On Heat. I might be joining you in Cancun very soon, David. So we'll see what happens in the Rockets Game 5 later tonight. But let's get to our next game on the docket here. The Pistons surviving Game 5, forcing a Game 6 against the Knicks. Let's check out Locked On Pistons for more on this win.
Cade Cunningham in the fourth quarter, when the Detroit Pistons needed him to close it out to extend their season, to get back to the 3-1-3, to give themselves a chance to come back down from 3-1, where it should be really right now 3-2, but nonetheless, we'll keep going. Give them the chance to go back to the 3-1-3 and send the Knicks back to Madison Square Garden. See what happens in Game 7. Drops 13 points. 13 points in the fourth quarter after struggling. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. Couldn't make any shots. Couldn't make a 3. Couldn't make anything. Was struggling shooting from the field. He came out in that fourth quarter. 3 balls. Getting to the free throw line. Drives to the basket. Great defense. Steals. He came through and does what superstars are supposed to do in the middle, in the fourth quarter. And that is give your team the win. He didn't get it last game. He missed the last shot last game. You can either be mad about the last one and let it bring you down, or you can come out the next game and show up and bring your team home. And that's exactly what Cade Cunningham did. We're going back to the 3-1-3. 3-2, this thing ain't over yet. And also, play Asar Thompson. Who would have thought?
I love it when Koo gets so he feels so vindicated. And look, this was an awesome performance, right? Watching Cade take over after he flat out he struggled for most of the night. It was really funny. Like at one point you look at the box score, and like both Brunson and Cade had like 2 points and 4 points respectively. And it's like the teams were doing all the work without their 2 star players. Cade woke up there in that fourth quarter, though, like Koo mentioned, the 13 points in that frame, finished the night with 24 points, just 6 of 17 shooting, again, struggling for most of the night before that fourth quarter. And then 11 of 12 at the charity stripe. Just at no point, even though he'd been struggling all night, he looked so calm and kind of poised there in that fourth quarter with some of the shots and the attempts that he was getting. None more so than I think that drive where he just took the ball in, finished right over the top of Jalen Brunson. He had like 2 or 3 guys swarming him on that fast break possession, and he didn't falter, didn't worry about it, didn't worry about the foul, just absorbed the contact, finished at the rim. Really easy stuff for Cade in this one.
Yeah, although he was struggling, you could tell from the process he was doing the right things. He wasn't rushing shots. He wasn't taking bad or ill-advised shots. It wasn't like his offense just completely left him. He just wasn't able to knock those down. And then to his credit, he was able to stay poised and said, you know what, I can get to the rim. I can get my shot off. And he did. And he stayed with it. And he was able to knock those down towards the end. So great game from him. And look, a superstar like him, he gets to the line. And he was able to capitalize on those and get those opportunities and make the most in order to help Detroit win. But what a weird finish, though. And I mean, I know we don't want to detract too much away from Detroit's effort late in the game because they got some really nice performances and key contributions from a number of players. But what about that ending and Tom Thibodeau not using a timeout to get Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart back into the game? Like, I know it was a close finish, but those two players taking an injury with about 3 minutes left in the game and having to sit out for a couple of possessions there. And then Detroit just starts mounting their comeback, and they're waiting at the scorer's table. And Thibodeau refuses to take that timeout to put them in the game. It might have cost them their season. We'll see how the rest of the series plays out. But this was a game where they could have won it, especially if they had put Brunson in there a little bit sooner and given him an opportunity to generate some of the offense that he does. After all, he is the clutch player of the year. You figure you might want to have them in there in the waning moments of a close game 4.
I know I get it. Like it's such a difficult spot to be in because if memory serves, the Knicks only had the 1 timeout left, right? So
sure.
Like that's the issue is, do you burn that timeout in such a close game? I kind of understand. My issue is just at that point, just take a take foul. Like if you don't want to burn the timeout, like not a take foul, right? But like just grab somebody, right? Even if you're in the bonus, right, send them to the free throw line, like pick a poor free throw shooter, wait till they have the ball in their hands and then send them to the line. Yeah, you might bite the bullet and gift wrap them 2 points at the charity stripe, but that's better than leaving 2 of your best players sidelined for multiple minutes at the end of an incredibly close game. And to your point, right, getting Jalen Brunson, literally the clutch player of the year, back on the floor should have been priority number 1, 2, and 3 for Tom Thibodeau and his staff. And they just sat there. They were spectators for such a large portion of this game. They didn't get checked back in until like under 30 seconds left to play. It was just such an absurd kind of, and what was even crazier is at the end, they still had a bit of a chance, right? With Miles McBride at the free throw line. He missed the first one, which means he had to miss the second one, and they had to get a tip out for a potential 3-pointer. That one really hurts because if McBride hits that first one, then you sub in your bigs and maybe you get a tip in shot or a kick out for a quick 2-pointer and you can force OT. But the Knicks didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't know who Mitchell Robinson was subbing in for on that final possession. They were just completely all out of sorts. It's almost like they hadn't planned for, a late game scenario where you need to intentionally miss a free throw. And I feel like that's something like most teams do kind of practice at least occasionally throughout the season and prepare for.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you're right. I mean, they were right there. They had a chance to win this. Now you have to go into Detroit. You have to go in there and try and steal game 6 on the road. Not an easy thing to do. And if you lose that one, you're back home in game 7. Well, Detroit's already shown the capacity to win on the road. So what makes them think that they couldn't pull off a stunning game 7 upset there, especially if, your players tend to break down towards the end of the season as they want to do when they play for Tom Thibodeau. So it's just a tricky game. A lot of things could have broke in New York's favor, and unfortunately, they just weren't able to make the most of those opportunities. But you have to give Detroit credit because I think they played a really good game. Got some nice contributions from Dennis Schroeder. I think Jalen Duren had a couple nice plays there towards the end. Tobias Harris did a really good job defensively as well. He was really solid in this one.
And to Ku's point, Asar Thompson, I thought his defense was really stellar, really stellar. One of the reasons that Jalen Brunson struggled as much as he did in this game. That's definitely a guy you got to keep on the floor if you're Detroit. Let's hear what Locked On Knicks had to say about this loss.
The New York Knicks were not able to close out their first series on their home floor in over 2 decades, unfortunately. Actually, over a quarter of a century, if we want to make it an even bigger time frame. The Knicks lose 106-103 to the Detroit Pistons at Madison Square Garden, and you hate to see it. And unfortunately, just a tough scene as far as timeout management. Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart both have to exit the game at 2 minutes left after tweaking something. They both were hobbled, had to come out of the game for treatment briefly. Both were ready to check back in inside of 2 minutes and just had to wait and wait and wait and wait, as Tom Thibodeau had not conserved enough timeouts to just call one. The Knicks were in foul trouble, so they did not have a foul to give, and they found themselves just having to wait a minute and a half with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart sitting on the sideline before those guys were able to check in and close the game for the Knicks. You don't want to be without the top crunch time player in the NBA, one of the best crunch time players in NBA history by the record books right now. You don't want to be without him for 1.5 out of the final 2 minutes. And then the Knicks still managed to almost pull this one out, and a last-minute steal attempt does not quite go their way. And then things just kind of fall apart, and now they're going back to Little Caesars Arena. But the bright side, at least they're undefeated there. So hopefully they can make it 3-0 and dust this series and head on to Boston.
Kind of feels like the momentum in this series is shifting more so in the favor of the Pistons. I kind of like the Pistons odds here coming up in game 6. I think this one goes to 7 games ultimately. But coming up, let's get into Jamal Murray dropping a 40-piece against the Clippers in the pivotal game 5 of that series, and the Boston Celtics finally putting it into those pesky Orlando Magic. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels absolutely huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I use Game Time because of their all-in pricing. It means no surprise fees at checkout. They are fully transparent. What you see is what you pay. Plus, those last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for playoff games, for concerts, comedy, theater events, whatever's happening near you. You've got to check it out on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night. We got 2 games left on our 4-game slate, and we are going out to the Mile High City, where the Denver Nuggets, protecting home court, taking the pivotal Game 5 behind a 40-piece from Jamal Murray. Let's go out to Locked On Nuggets for more on this one.
The Denver Nuggets get a 131-115 win over the Los Angeles Clippers in Game 5 to take a 3-2 series lead in Denver after a dominant 43-point performance for Jamal Murray. When he plays like that, the Denver Nuggets are near unbeatable. Just an incredible display of shot making with 3 steals to boot as well. Nikola Jokic, not the best shooting game, perhaps his worst overall game of the series, but still ends up with yet another triple-double with 12 assists today and just 2 turnovers. Russell Westbrook, phenomenal game off the bench. First game back, just hitting jumpers off the backboard, 3-pointers. The Denver Nuggets came out this game playing really, really good defense. The Clippers clawed back into the game, got the lead down to 8 at one point, but the Nuggets, they pulled away. They have a chance to go back to LA and Intuit Dome and get a series win. Wow, what a series.
This has arguably been the best first round series so far. I think the competitiveness between these two teams, the back and forth battles between these two. And look, David, if I told you there was a game where Nikola Jokic put up 13 points and it took him 13 shots to get there, you'd think the Nuggets would be in trouble not winning, by the final score was a 16-point win, but they were up comfortably by like 20 something for chunks of this game.
Yeah, no, it was it just kind of shows that this is a championship team and they have that experience. And Murray, just one of those players that when he gets hot, you don't see a lot like it around the NBA. And he's just a phenomenal scorer. He just gets into that rhythm, and you could tell like everything, he was letting it fly and he was knocking it down. I was surprised more when he missed than when he was making those shots. And he even got hurt at one point. He winds up taking a fall there. He steps on Aaron Gordon's foot, rolls his ankle a little bit, and you think he might be hobbled or might have to miss some time or anything like that. But no, he fought through it, winds up hitting a shot in almost the very next possession and didn't seem to lose rhythm at all. He was fantastic, but they got some really great contributions from a number of guys other than Murray. Westbrook, as Cam pointed out, but also Aaron Gordon stepped up. He had 23 points. He was really good in tonight's showing too. And yeah, it was surprising. Like that, I thought the Clippers would be able to show a little bit more towards the end of the game, but the Nuggets were just too good, too dominant, and their offense was just flowing too freely.
Yeah, I mean, look, when the Nuggets get this version of Jamal Murray, like Cam said, they're nearly unbeatable. The question just kind of becomes what's going on with Jamal Murray and why hasn't he been able to be this version of himself consistently enough this season, right? Like a lot of the struggles of the Nuggets from this season can be pinpointed to the fact that Jamal Murray really underperformed for long stretches of the year. And so if he starts peaking right now, right, if you get this version of Jamal, and look, we're not talking that he has to drop 40 plus every single game, but if you get a confident version of Jamal Murray, a one where he's knocking down shots like this, where he can work in tandem with Nikola Jokic, where Jokic kind of, one of my favorite things about this duo between Jokic and Murray is when Jokic starts like hunting Murray's shot, when he's going out of his way to make sure and create opportunities for Jamal Murray to get clean looks, right, using that insane playmaking, that insane gravity that he has to open things up for his teammates. And he's got that innate ability of just knowing like, okay, this guy's got it going. I've got to find him repeatedly. And when he starts hunting Jamal Murray's shot and Murray's hitting and clicking the way that he was in this game, this Nuggets team is going to be a handful. And I don't know when they get this version of Murray, I don't know that there's a team that can actually defend them, right? This is a Clippers team that was one of the best defenses in the entire NBA this season. And they didn't have any answer for the Nuggets in this game.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. They just seem to fall apart there at the end. And I mean, they tried their best to try and chase things around and make things a little bit more difficult, but Murray was just in that groove. And look, I mean, from there, it all trickles down to everybody else. You have to make sure that you defend everybody. You kind of have the defenses back on their heels. And then you get some really great opportunities also. Like I said, Westbrook hitting a couple shots here and there that really seemed to break the Clippers' spirits, because they just thought, maybe late in a possession, they thought maybe they would be able to get a stop, and Westbrook just pulls up and knocks it down. Yeah, he certainly looked dialed in tonight as well.
Also, Russ developing that corner three ball at this stage in his career, like the fact that it's become, dare I say, reliable at this point, to where teams really can't just leave him on an island out there and say, you know what, all right, beat it. Maybe reliable is a bit too strong of a word. We need suggestions for a word that's not quite as powerful as that one, talking about Russell Westbrook's 3-pointer. But on the Clippers side of things in this one too, they got some really great performances from first off, Zubac was incredible in this game, 27 points, 11 of 15 shooting. They were going to him repeatedly down the stretch. He was awesome there in the fourth quarter as they were kind of trying to mount that little bit of a comeback, right? Clippers went on a 17-4 run to cut into that 22-point lead that the Nuggets had built up. They got it down to single digits, and then Denver calls a timeout. They rally the troops, and then they go on their own 8-0 run to give themselves the breathing room to coast to the finish line in this one before ultimately Ty Lue waved the white flag, pulled the reserves, called it a game. But James Harden really struggling in this one. Just 11 points, 3 of 9 shooting, 4 turnovers. Didn't really look comfortable. Only got 2 attempts from 3. Just kind of struggling across the board. A really quiet night from him. And then they probably just needed a little bit more from Norm Powell as well. 12 points on 12 shots, 1 of 5 from downtown. Just a kind of a really rough night from the Clippers backcourt. When largely they got the contributions they needed elsewhere from other guys on the roster.
Yeah, that's a good point. To that, I think Denver's defense did a really good job. Christian Brown was really kind of hounding hard and making things difficult for him, and they really got some nice stops there, or just were able to challenge them in certain ways. But they also kind of shot themselves in the foot to a huge degree. They only shot 50-something% from the free throw line. Kawhi was surprisingly bad from the line, but Harden missed free throws. Zubac missed a couple, especially late there in the game when you might have cut the lead down even more, chipped away at it. They were just not able to hit some really crucial shots. And that kind of, again, those are things that you kind of need to. We've seen this Clippers team be able to mount this kind of comeback before, but you have to play almost perfectly, especially when you're working from such a large deficit as they were, and they just were far from that tonight.
Yeah, there were some points too where like God, there was that possession where Chris Dunn almost forced the turnover, and then it resulted in and then Nuggets come back and get a freebie. There was Jokic on an inbound by the Clippers, right, slapping at the ball and just getting a free two, like just a few different things, some 50-50 balls that broke the way of the Nuggets in this one, and ultimately they take Game 5. Things swing back out to the West Coast for Intuit Dome, Game 6. That's going to be a must-watch game between these two. I have a sneaking suspicion that this one's going all the way to 7 as well. And my goodness, Game 7 between these two teams, with the way that the series has gone up to this point, is going to be break out the popcorn. That's going to be a must-watch game for sure down the line. Let's get to our final game on the slate here, where the Boston Celtics, based on how the first half looked, you wouldn't have thought the outcome of this game would have been what it was. Let's tune into Locked On Celtics, see what John had to say about this.
Boston Celtics finally got rid of the Orlando Magic. It goes down as a 4-1 series win, but the Celtics really only showed their true selves for a little less than 2 quarters here in Game 5. It all centered around Paolo Banchero drawing his 5th foul, committing his 5th foul, with about 9.5 minutes to go, and then the Celtics going on a 30-9 run to close the third quarter. I think Jamal Mosley should have put Banchero back in with 2:48 to go in the third, and the Celtics still only up by 10. He didn't do that. Worst case scenario is that he fouls out. I think that they should have taken that chance because they had no chance against the Celtics once they went up 21 heading into the fourth quarter. It goes down as a 31-point win. The Celtics were 0 of 6 from 3 going into halftime. They finished 13 of 24, so what's that, 13 of 18 in the second half? Like I said, they finally showed themselves after Banchero sat. It's amazing how much Banchero meant to Orlando's defense in the end, because the Celtics took advantage of kind of a scattered Orlando defense after he sat down, and they just never looked back after that. Now, we sit back and wait for Detroit and New York to sort themselves out.
Yeah, this game came completely off the rails after a really hard fought first half by the Orlando Magic. Give them credit, right? This is the first time all season that the Celtics have gone an entire half of basketball without hitting at least one 3-pointer. So holding them 0 of 6 from the 3-point line. But then, of course, as the Celtics do, splashing 13 threes in the set. That's just absurd. That's just crazy that they can just turn it on and turn it around and have, an awful shooting half like that. And then just there go the floodgates and they're back into it. And then, yeah, to John's point, right? Banchero sitting down. And look, we know this has been the story with this Orlando Magic team all season long. Their offense is abysmal outside of, running, heliocentric stuff through Banchero, through Franz Wagner, and, Banchero picking up that 5th foul, sitting so early. And then, look, Magic only got up 13 points in that third quarter. I'm with John. Like, Jamal Mosley should have just rolled the dice. This was your season on the line, and you decide to sit your star player and you allow the Celtics to go on this massive run. And then it doesn't matter that you saved him for the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter that you preserved him and you were worried about him fouling out earlier. Like, you were in the game then, and by pulling him, sitting him, you effectively lost this one by benching Banchero, it felt like.
Yeah, it feels too easy to say that, because you have to show, as a head coach, you have to show faith in everybody else and say, look, your star's out. He was out for a good chunk of the season. What else have you got? Like, who else is going to step up in his absence? And I think that's what Jamal was thinking, is that you have to be able to trust that somebody else is going to find something. And it didn't work. At the same time, you put Paolo back in, Boston's going to attack him. They're going to try to draw that 6th foul on him and get him to force him out of the game. And if that's the case, then you could say, oh, why'd you put him in so quickly? So you're always going to second guess it's kind of a major decision like that, but it didn't work out either way. They've got bigger issues, though. I mean, to your point, their offense has just been really poor all season. It's been a struggle for them. They struggled from the 3-point line yet again. They didn't have much of anything offensively, especially not with Banchero missing that large chunk of time. But, this is also more about, I think, the Celtics just being a really good team, especially when they start shooting the way they did in the second half. I mean, that's a team that's impossible to stop. So it seems like it's going to be, and not to discount anybody else still in the Eastern Conference playoffs, but Boston versus Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals looks like it's going to be a dream matchup.
It certainly feels like we're headed that way. One more stat for you before we wrap up this one. Jason Tatum, 35 points, third straight game, 35 plus. Only other Boston Celtic to do that in NBA history, Larry Bird. So that's some solid company for Jason Tatum, 35 in 3 straight games for him as the Boston Celtics advance, eliminating the Orlando Magic. That's going to do it for our edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. We appreciate you for being with us here at Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go find the Locked On show for your favorite team. Until then, we will catch you guys on our very next game night.